And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Okay, with the colder northeast winds here, the ice edge is now advancing back to the south and southwest slowly, and that'll continue to do so through the weekend, including here in Bristol Bay. And for the tonight's forecast, this weakening front here, keeping it unsettled, cloudy, eastern Aleutians, some light precipitation there, showers for the Alaska Peninsula. This low continues the week, and so winds will really let up here over the western Aleutian areas. Clear and cold over the interior, milder with clouds and some snow chances here on the east side, and some light snow pushing westward here, possibly into Turnagain Arm later tonight, and along the North Gulf Coast, and better conditions for the Panhandle with winds becoming much lighter and precipitation becoming more showery. And then for tomorrow, chance of snow tomorrow afternoon pushes into northern Cook Inlet, Manuska, and portions of the Susitna Valley, extending up into the mid and upper Tanana Valley, actually possibly there over toward the Yukon River to Eagle, and still a chance of snow here along the North Gulf Coast, and a few showers lingering over the northern Panhandle. Otherwise, weak high pressure really drying it out for much lighter winds as well, light winds for the southeast coast, and dry and on the chilly side, but some sunshine, Kodiak Island, and a lot of sunshine over the western interior areas and toward the, actually into the central interior as well, Koyukuk Valley included. Next front pushes some rain and snow into the central Aleutians. And then on Sunday, dries out here over the eastern Aleutians, much of the Bering Sea as cold air continues to push southward and eventually westward a little bit there with those gusty northeast winds becoming windier here up over the interior areas as well as along the Alaska Range as well. This low center just south of Resurrection Bay, keeping snow chances going, Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula into Prince William Sound and the North Gulf Coast, and a trough pushing showers into the Panhandle. For the winds on the south coast, south winds 15 knots, central coast south at 20, not much different for the north coast, south to southeast winds 20 to 25 knots, seas running about 11 feet, and Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, Stevens Passage, and Clarence Strait, all looking at south winds tomorrow 20 knots. And then for Sunday, inside waters, southeast winds 20 knots, on the south coast, south to southwest winds 20 knots, and the central coast, east to south winds at 25 knots through here, and then east 15 to 20 for the north coast. Cook Inlet, northern Cook Inlet, light variable winds tomorrow. Otherwise, Prince William Sound, north winds at 20 knots. Eastern North Gulf Coast, north to northeast winds 25 knots. North 15 here, and a lighter wind zone there for the western North Gulf Coast, and gale warnings, Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands for west-northwest winds at 35. Southern Cook Inlet, north winds 15 knots, seas 3 feet. And for Sunday, Cook Inlet, north winds 10 to 15 knots, 2 to 4 foot seas. Small craft advisories, Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, northwest winds 25 to 30 knots. And for the eastern North Gulf Coast, winds will be east and southeast at 25 knots, northeast 20 for the western North Gulf Coast, and Prince William Sound looking at an east wind on Sunday at 20 knots, seas at about 4 feet. Kodiak Island Saturday, northwesterlies 30 knots, Bristol Bay northwest at 15, and the Alaska Peninsula north to northwest winds 15 to 20 knots. Sunday, Bristol Bay northwest 20, Kodiak Island northwest 20 to 25, and small craft advisories for the Alaska Peninsula for north to northwest winds 25 to 30 knots with seas running 3 to 8 feet. And for the eastern Aleutians, north to west winds 15 to 20 knots, southwest 25 for Adak, Atka, and Mchitka Island. And for the western Aleutians, variable winds 15 knots. Then for Sunday, western Aleutians, southeast to southwest winds at 20 to 25 knots, east winds 30 knots there for Adak and Atka. Eastern Aleutians, north to northeast winds 25 to 30 knots. Southwest coast and St. Lawrence Island, north winds 20 knots, brisk wind advisories for Norton Sound, north at 25, north 20 knots for the St. Matthew Island, northeast 15 for the Pribilofs. And for Sunday, north 25 for St. Paul and St. George, northeast 25, St. Matthew Island, 30-knot winds here for the Kuskokwim Delta coast, otherwise north at 20 for Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, and the Yukon Delta coast. Up to the Arctic coast, we've got pretty light winds on the central and west side tomorrow, north at 10, and the Chukchi Sea, north winds 20 to 25 knots. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast, northwest to west winds at 20. And then for Sunday, west winds 20 knots here for the eastern coast, central coast, west at 10, east at 10 for the west side, and the Chukchi Sea, north or northeast winds at about 20 knots.